Welcome, welcome, everyone.
We have an eye.
On behalf of the Leadership Center for Social Justice at United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities, we want to welcome you to the 2025 Hawkinson Award Ceremony and Gala. My name is Grace Pennings-Genthner, and I am the Community Outreach and Engagement Coordinator for the Hawkinson Fund for Peace and Justice.
Thanks, Grace. Wonderful to see all your faces here, some familiar, some new. My name is Rye Sigelko, and I'm the Director of the Leadership Center for Social Justice here at United. Since its founding in 2022, the Leadership Center for Social Justice has sought to equip, inspire, and empower leaders to engage in concrete, contextual ministry for social justice. Through our Leadership for Social Justice program, we have graduated more than 40 ministers throughout the country, especially in the Midwest region. These individuals are making a profound impact in their congregations and in their communities, organizing to confront racism, militarism, transphobia and homophobia, and ecological destruction, while building relationships of solidarity and accompanying people in their everyday struggles for justice. When I learned about the Hawkinson Fund for Peace and Justice, it immediately became clear through Eric and through Stan that the mission and the spirit of this fund and the center are very closely aligned. We are deeply honored and excited that the Hawkinson Fund is now part of the Leadership Center for Social Justice, having come to us from Grace University Lutheran Church. It has been a wonderful year, and we look forward to many more.
We are so deeply grateful to each and every one of you for being here tonight. Your presence here and your commitment to peace and justice is no small thing. Thank you for gathering together to celebrate and uplift the courageous people who work tirelessly to transform the world. Reverend Vincent Hawkinson was one such person. He believed it was the duty of religious leaders and people of faith to stand up and speak out against injustices and violence in the world. Upon his retirement as pastor at Grace University Lutheran Church in 1988, members of his congregation founded the Vincent L. Hawkinson Foundation to continue the spirit of this passionate advocate for justice. Much has changed in our world in the 37 years since the Hawkinson Fund for Peace and Justice began, and our country has weathered many storms and squalls. Our beautiful state has experienced challenging ups and downs along the path to here, and here we are. I often say this with a sigh of resignation. Here we are. But another way to say this, to quote Rupi Kaur, here we are, living despite it all. What a gift to be here with all of you tonight. It has been a great honor and privilege to learn from our scholars, past and present, our honorary awardees, and supporters of the fund this past year. Thank you for trusting the Leadership Center for Social Justice at United to carry Reverend Vince Hawkinson's legacy forward. Though it has had many names and many different homes since it was first founded, the mission of the Hawkinson Fund remains the same: to support those who have demonstrated a deep commitment to advancing peace and social justice through justice-oriented projects, standing up for their convictions, or displaying ongoing leadership within a peace or justice organization. Tonight, we are delighted to honor 8 exceptional change makers. We gather to celebrate the work they have done and continue to do, and to remember that none of us is alone in this moment and in the work that must be done.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce our musicians tonight, Kavyesh Kaviraj and friends. Kavyesh is a critically acclaimed composer, arranger, and pianist living and working in Minnesota. This Twin Cities-based musician has worked with several internationally renowned artists, and he currently has some with him today as well. And we'll get to know the rest of the band too. Kavi is a dear friend of mine. He actually he played for our Center's Lodge 3 years ago now, and since then I've gone to I think almost every one of his shows. He's incredible. He's a lovely human being with a beautiful story and a big heart. Kavi and friends, welcome.
Thank you so much. This next composition is called Take My Hand, and I think it's quite poignant for the moment we live in. I wrote this song walking down the bridge to the Walker Sculpture Garden as I was on a break while teaching, and I realized I was in a moment where my well had run dry. There was all this anxiety and angst I had nothing to pour out to my student. And when the student showed up, voila, there it was. Now I have things to give you. And then I realized it's not about what I have, it's about what I can give. No matter what I have, I can always put out my hand to help, and that was the lesson for me. So this is a reminder to myself, and I hope it is for you. This is called Take My Hand. Thank you.
Let's give Kavi and friends another hand. Well, that's a good way to start. Thanks for bringing the love. I'd like to introduce a new award this year. We're calling this the Hawkinson Solidarity Award. And as my friend, the historian Marcus Rediger recently said, solidarity is not given. Solidarity is earned. And the two men that we are going to celebrate tonight have certainly earned this award. I am not going to be the one to introduce this award to them. Instead, we have a special introduction. Grace?
So I am going to read some words from 2024 Hawkinson Scholar, the Jacobson Scholar, Francis Ogamba. I thought that it would be poignant to have Francis introduce this award in a way. So I reached out to Francis, and I will read her remarks. And we'll see a picture of Francis. There she is. All right. So these are Francis's words. The first time I met Eric Huckey and Stan Jacobson was in April of 2024. It was a humbling, illuminating experience. To sit in that circle where everything fell away except our shared concern for humanity. The question that lingered in the room was profound. How might we ease someone's heavy load? What I found most inspiring was the light in Eric and Stan's eyes as they spoke about the vision of the Hawkinson Fund, the corners of the world their journeys had taken them in service of humanity, and their determination to change one life at a time. It was while in that room that I, too, found a new language for my own work, a discovery that was motivated by Stan and Eric's zest and commitment to the Humanity Project. Receiving the 2024 Jacobson Scholarship has been transformative for me, as it has been for many young African writers. It has allowed me to cover essential costs for the Adembeka Creative Writing Workshop and extend support to Ubwali Literary Magazine, where I launched the Francis Ogamba Scholarship to fund 5 emerging Africans for Ubwali's virtual fiction masterclass. I have also been able to contribute to the Umuofia Book and Arts Festival in Nigeria, which celebrates a culture alive with creativity and artistry. Since receiving the scholarship, the Hawkinson Fund has been a great support system for my career pursuits and well-being. To Stan, Eric, and the entire Hawkinson Fund team, thank you for your ability to recognize diamonds in the rough, for listening attentively to the heartbeats of this world, and for reminding us not only to listen with the intention to hear, but to look with the intention to truly see. So thank you, Francis, for that lovely introduction, reflection. At this time, I invite Stan Jacobson and Eric Huckey to please come forward.
Stan, this is a letter.
Yes, we have printed the remarks from Francis.
Francis's remarks. And then I'd like to give you this Hawkinson Award. Solidarity Award in recognition of his faithful stewardship of the Hawkinson Fund for Peace and Justice, Stan Jacobson. Thank you very much.
And then to Eric.
Fred? Yeah. No, go ahead. Reverend? Okay, this is for you. The Hawkinson Solidarity Award 2025 in recognition of his faithful stewardship of the Hawkinson Fund for Peace and Justice, Eric Huckey. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you both for the countless hours you have worked to build and nurture the Hawkinson Fund over the years. Your sustained commitment to peace and justice has changed the lives of so many, and for this, we are deeply grateful. We are delighted to present the 2025 Solidarity Awards to Stan Jacobson and Eric Huckey.
Quite honestly, I never imagined that someday I would be on the receiving end of a Hawkinson Honorary Award, the same award which we have bestowed on so many deserving people all these many years. Pretty amazing. But even more amazing is the fact that we are all here again tonight, some 35 years after it all began. Actually, in the beginning, there were times when Stan and I weren't always sure what we were doing, or if this program was even going to be around for very long, especially since nothing like it had ever been attempted before. But we didn't give up, and with additional help of our dedicated donors and volunteers, we're still going strong today, 35 years. I can't thank you all enough. Tonight, I'm also most grateful for the work of my good friend Stan Jacobson, without whom the Hawkinson Foundation would never have been able to accomplish what it has. So now I wish to share with you why I think this program has turned out to be so successful. Very simply, it's this. First of all, there is no shortage of remarkable people in our community who over the years have sacrificed time and energy toward making this a more just and peaceable world. And by honoring these persons, we are, like we are doing tonight, we bring to light the work that they've done. And they, in turn, are enabled to share their hopes and ideals with us in order to inspire all of us and motivate us to work for peace and justice. Secondly, there are a whole host of very talented and caring young people out there in our midst who are equally committed to the same goals and ideals as their elders. They too deserve to be recognized for their accomplishments and to receive our scholarships. Now let me just repeat what I have said. There is no shortage of people in our midst who deserve recognition for their efforts in furthering the cause of peace and justice. And because of this, the Hawkinson program will never go out of business. All it takes is for a few capable and enthusiastic individuals to take the time to organize and support the program. Lastly, I especially want to commend the folks here at United Seminary for being willing to pick up the torch which we now pass on to you. Furthermore, I wish to add that I am particularly pleased that UTS is taking this responsibility because, as a 1973 graduate of this institution, I can't think of a better place for it to continue in the future. And now, as I like to say, keep up the good work. Or, as St. Paul put it, Let us not grow weary of doing good in the world. Best wishes to all.
What I'd like to do is to begin by improvising like the music that you just heard. But that's not a good idea. The only improvisation I'll add is that Eric and I decided to wear exactly the same thing tonight. Blue blazer, blue shirt, and a blue or red tie. Okay, remember that picture? Okay, so that's the end of my improvisation. My experience with the Hawkinson Fund over the last 38 years has allowed me to see the promised land that was promised and described by Martin Luther King on the night before he died. It is not a land of milk and honey. It is a land filled with people who defy the odds, people who step out of their comfort zones and lead others to say no to injustice, no to war, no to killing people with our money in children in Gaza. I accept this award today, not for myself, but for the 165 scholars and more than 50 honorary award winners whose recognition Eric and I have played a small part in. I do this inspired by Mel Duncan, who received the Hawkinson Honorary Award in 2014, and said that it was not for him, but for the hundreds of brave women and men who, under the banner of the nonviolent peace force that he started, step out courageously between warring factions to protect innocent civilians around the world today. I do this inspired by Polly Mann and Marianne Hamilton, the founders of Women Against Military Madness, and Father Harry Burry, who went with Marianne Hamilton to Hanoi to negotiate an end to the Vietnam War in 1972. Of course, the war didn't end for 3 more years. I'm inspired by the work of Eleanor Otterness with the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, by Louise Pardee and Joe Schwartzberg and their work with the World Federalists, Sharon Day, the founder of the Indigenous Peoples Task Force in Minneapolis, and by Marv Davidoff and Steve Clemens, who followed their conscience to the protest war even when it led to prison. The Hawkinson Fund is not about glorifying the past, but about changing the future. We lift up those who have gone before to be inspired. We're passing the torch to the next generation. It's about the yin and yang between generations. These people, whose names I've just mentioned, and many others like them, have received the Hawkinson Honorary Award. Others are here tonight. They are the yin, and the Hawkinson Scholars are the yang. Back in 2006, a student from Uganda named John Mary Lugamwa received a Hawkinson Scholarship while attending St. John's University in Collegeville. And now, 20 years later, he wrote a letter to us saying, "Thanks for a great push when it was needed," because he began and now operates a school for 700 orphans, and he started a fund that provides community development, medical care, water and sanitation, renewable energy, and houses for widows in Uganda. Today, over at Macalester College, there's a student named McCole. 3 years ago, he was a refugee, one of the lost boys of Sudan, living in the Kakuma refugee camp in northwest Kenya. Now, he is one of 38 students from Kakuma at colleges and universities in the US, Canada, and Europe. And they are succeeding because a woman named Mary Maker received a Hawkinson Scholarship 5 years ago while attending St. Olaf College. She used her scholarship to help her former students back in Kenya, and that led directly to creating a program called Elimisha Kakuma to help high school graduates leave Kakuma to get a higher education. Mary Maker, an orphan from South Sudan, was named a United Nations Goodwill Ambassador in 2023. Which brings to mind another Hawkinson scholar. Danai Gurira is best known for her starring roles in the movies The Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and The Walking Dead TV series. Her films have grossed $7 billion, making her the 7th highest grossing actress of all time. That's not exactly what we expected when we interviewed her for a scholarship as a junior at Macalester back in 1999. Then, Danai described how her participation in theater at Macalester helped her understand better the discrimination by race, class, and gender, which in turn led her to community service. The scholarship would let her spend more time on these burning issues and pursue her goal to support women and girls of color. The seeds were being planted to become one of the most influential role models in both her personal and professional life, an award-winning playwright and founder of 2 nonprofit organizations focusing on women's rights in Zimbabwe, for which she was named a United Nations Goodwill Ambassador in 2018. John, Mary, and Danai are just 3 out of 165 Hawkinson Scholars. Another student, St. Olaf student named Sudip Bandari, became a Hawkinson Scholar in 2014 in recognition of his successful campaign to get the Ministry of Education in Nepal to write the truth about Adolf Hitler in that country's official high school history books instead of calling Hitler a hero, which was what Sudip had been taught when he was in high school in Nepal. Hawkinson Scholars have gone on to become professors at Providence College in Rhode Island, Georgetown University in Washington, Ohio State, California Polytechnic, even Oregon State in Bend, Oregon. And of course, the University of Minnesota here on this campus, as well as in Mankato. There are Hawkinson Scholars today who are foreign service officers, lawyers, medical doctors practicing around the world, and 2 prize-winning African authors who now support aspiring authors in Africa, including Francis Ogamba, that we just heard from, as well as Mubanga Kalimamu Kwento, Francis's good friend who nominated Francis for the scholarship. And of course, there are pastors, including 6 UTS graduates of this seminary who have received Hawkinson scholarships. And I hope that's just the beginning of a much longer list, like Professor Matthew Bersago Braley, a graduate of UTS, who was named the Viterbo University Teacher of the Year in 2020 because he brings inspiration, humor, creativity, and leadership to each student's experience. I've been privileged to get to know the Hawkinson Scholars. In them, I have seen the courageous human spirit driven by hope and love, people living out the audacious belief that they can create change in the world, one person at a time. Their actions rising up against injustice and pointing the way toward the blessed community. That is my concept of heaven, and I've been privileged to experience it here on earth by getting to know these people. Finally, in this room tonight, in these scholars you are about to meet, we have even more future world changers. And on their behalf, I thank you for your recognition and support.
Thank you, Stan and Eric. Over the course of the last few years, as I've been in conversation with Stan about the fund, there were so many times on the phone where he'd begin to tell me about another scholar's story, another scholar's story. This man, if you want to learn more, he knows every single scholar that's gone through this program. He's read everything they've written. He's stewarded this, and it's remarkable. So thank you so much. At this time, we'd like to invite our 2025 Hawkinson Scholars to come forward. Chris, Rosalind. And I'm not sure if the others are online or not, if we have Emmanuel present on Zoom or not. Olu, do you see him there? The time difference for both Milky and Emmanuel is quite wide. Emmanuel is in Africa, in Nigeria, and I believe Milky is in Australia. So, they're probably sleeping, I suppose.
We hope they are.
The Hawkinson Fund offers up to 5 scholarships each year, ranging from $2,500 to $5,000 to individuals who have demonstrated a deep commitment to advancing peace and justice through justice-oriented projects, standing up for their convictions, or displaying ongoing leadership within a peace or justice organization. Ideal candidates, and this is on the application form, this is important, have served as role models, inspiring others to engage in meaningful actions that move society toward a more just and peaceful future. We're delighted to present the 2025 Hawkinson Scholar Award first to Emmanuel Alade, who is not with us, but we are celebrating him from afar. Emmanuel. Emmanuel is a Doctor of Ministry student. Can we bring his photo up?
It's up there.
Oh, it's up there. Good. Is a Doctor of Ministry student at United Theological Seminary. He's been a student of mine in my Liberation Theology class and in our LCSJ cohort. He lives and works in Nigeria. Ordained as an Anglican missioner, Emmanuel spent over 20 years serving rural Nigerian communities, implementing programs in welfare, healthcare, education, and economic empowerment. Emmanuel is the founder of Global Kingdom Harvest Institute, which leads social justice initiatives such as science education, solar and water infrastructure, and community welfare projects. Let's give a hand to Emmanuel. Milky Osman is a student from St. Paul, passionate about storytelling. Starting in theater, her love for acting led to playwriting, and now she's pursuing a journalism degree at the University of Minnesota, blending technical skills with creativity. Milky is a versatile artist, using painting, video, photography, and mixed media to explore identity, community, and justice, deeply influenced by her experience as a second-generation immigrant and activist. Milky aims to merge journalism, documentary filmmaking, and art to drive social change, with a focus on global injustices. She is currently, happily I believe, studying abroad in Sydney to gain a broader perspective. Let's give Milky a hand. All right, now for the folks in the room. Chris Robertson is a PhD candidate in sociology at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, focusing on the health and community safety, focusing on how health and community safety impacts, focusing on the health and community safety impacts of systemic racism. His dissertation, Covenanted Policing, Policing, Spatial Racism, and Health Inequity in Minneapolis, examines how historic race-based housing discrimination shapes current policing practices and neighborhood health. Chris's research aims to create safe and flourishing communities. Let's give Chris a hand. And last but not least, Rosalind Amaya is a graduate student at Metropolitan State University pursuing a master's in advocacy and political leadership. Originally from Ghana, Rosalind moved to Minneapolis at age 6, an experience that shaped her perspective on cultural transitions and personal challenges. She believes those most affected by systemic issues often hold the most innovative solutions. Rosalind creates spaces where underserved communities feel safe and supported despite barriers. Passionate about bridging innovation with justice, she remains focused on positive change, grounded in faith and sustained effort. Her work is rooted in the belief that human dignity is non-negotiable and that systems should serve people. At her core, Rosalind is a disruptor, advocate, researcher, student, and friend. Let's give a hand to Rosalind. One thing that the Hawkinson Fund did several years ago in recognition of Stan Jacobson's leadership was to begin offering a Jacobson Scholar Award in his honor, in Stan's honor. And as I've gotten to know Stan over the past few years, I've wondered, okay, how are we going to do the Jacobson Award? Who's going to be the Jacobson Award winner? And I had a chance to spend the weekend with both Chris and Rosalind, and I was struck by Rosalind's something that she said at the retreat. She said something like, we all go through a lot of things. The question is, what are we going to do about it? And it made me think of Stan. One of the things that Stan really highlighted to me as we took over the fund was that he always looked for people who were impacted by some kind of injustice personally, and who decided to do something about it at a systemic level, and Rosalind embodies that. So Rosalind, you are the Jacobson Scholar Award winner this year. Give them all a hand, yes. You can stand.
Actually, I would like to invite the recipients of the 2025 Honorary Award to please come forward. We have Tom and Diane, and John and Lynn. So I might push you guys that way. Well, you can sit down. You can sit down. Each year, the Hawkinson Fund presents honorary awards to those who have been nominated for their significant and sustained contributions to peace and justice. In the past 37 years, the Hawkinson Fund has uplifted the extraordinary peace and justice work of 54 community leaders as honorary award recipients. And at this time, I would like to invite any recipients of the Hawkinson Honorary Award who are in the room to please raise your hand. And I would like us to all honor these wonderful humans with a round of applause. This year, we present the 2025 Hawkinson Honorary Award to two couples, Tom and Diane Haynes, and John and Lynn Pegg. Both of these couples are members of Creekside United Church of Christ in South Minneapolis, and were nominated by Steve Clemens, who received the Hawkinson Honorary Award in 2012. He has this to say: "The embodiment of a fierce passion for justice, coupled with a tender desire for mercy, describes both of the couples we honor this year. They remind us not to forget or ignore our neighbors to the south in their struggles for a life of dignity and safety." It is a joy and honor to now present the 2025 Honorary Award to Tom and Diane Haynes. It is my joy and honor to also present this award, the 2025 Honorary Award, to John and Lynn Pegg. And please join me once more to congratulate all of our award recipients tonight. Thank you. And now we're going to do things a little bit differently. So in the past, this is where we would hear from our honorary award recipients. This year, we're going to have a little bit more of a conversation, so a chance to hear from all of our Hawkinson awardees.
So over the last 24, well, I guess it's been longer than that now, about 30 hours, we've been hanging out together. Unfortunately, John and Lynn were not able to make it to the retreat, but we're so happy that you're here tonight. But the four of us, Tom and Diane and Chris and Roslyn, along with Nina Mehta, who's in the room as well, we spent time down at Mount Olivet Retreat Center for a leadership retreat, the first Hawkinson leadership retreat. And we had many wonderful conversations. And we thought we should bring that to you. That we should have a conversation, an intergenerational conversation about peace and justice. And we'd like to do that now. So we'll take some time to do that.
Yeah, like Rai said, it was truly a very wonderful time together and transformative in ways that I think, I maybe wasn't expecting, and so I feel very honored, and it was a gift to be together. So now I invite each of you to introduce yourselves and share a little bit about some of the justice work that you are doing, have done, and maybe think about what has been a significant piece of your journey thus far.
Well, I'm Tom Haynes, and I think just very quickly, Diane and I are we're surprised to be here, but really what I want to point to is the partners that we've had incredible opportunity to meet over the years in many countries, especially in Central America, and when we are able to go to Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and other countries, we see this amazing commitment to issues that affect all of us. We all live in the same world. We have the same air. We have the same water. We have the same resources, and they're on the front lines in terms of fighting that battle. And we witness that, and then we come back here and try to basically tell that story. It's a bit of an uphill battle. Those of you in this room, I think, recognize that when you talk about global justice. People, the myopia of the United States is concerning, and people don't seem to think anything matters outside of the borders of the U.S., including what's happening at the border, weirdly, and so we struggle to try to tell that story. I know I'm part of the global justice team at Creekside United Church of Christ, and could really do nothing without the support of our congregation. So we meet every month for a global justice night where we look at some issue that's affecting our partners around the world, and then also we recognize that our primary project isn't what's happening there. Our primary project is who we are and how we can articulate the vision for justice. We're from Creekside Church, and so it's the vision for justice that Jesus has given us for a just world for all. So that's kind of what we do. I'm going to close just with one story that exemplifies. It's kind of a metaphor for what we're trying to do and what we'll hopefully do more of in the future. We go to Guatemala. We've been going to Guatemala, Diane and I, since the early 90s, and we were there with Creekside in last year, 2020, what year is this? 2024, summer of 2024. There were 9 of us. And that took us, that delegation from Creekside, it was a Creekside Rights Action delegation, took us to the shores of Lago Isabal. If some of you have been to Guatemala and you know that area. And we sat for 3 hours there, and we listened to the stories of mostly women and one man. They had been raped by employees of an international mining company. They had been driven off their land. They had been driven off their land by African palm companies, and so mining and palm, all of these things, corporations that are headquartered in the United States, had been making their lives very, very difficult, and they struggled against that. And so they told us those stories. They told us the stories of rape. They told us the stories of murder. They told us the stories of being shot, all because to make profit in North America. And at the end, there were 13 people there that were talking to our delegation. And at the end of that, they told stories. I think it was about 3 hours. And then one of the leaders in the Mayan language of Quechua, which was then translated into Spanish, which was then translated into English. And at the end of that session, and we'd been to this village several times before, so we don't know them well, but they knew who we were. One of the leaders of the community asked us all to stand up, and they began with probably I think about 30 people in the room to pray, first of all in Quechua. And so they were doing a Mayan ancestral prayer in Quechua. And then the leader of that group shifted into a justice prayer in Spanish that was translated to us. And yeah. I've told this story before, you wouldn't, but it kind of gets to me, sorry. And then our pastor, Susie Hayward, was with us, Reverend Susie Hayward from Creekside, and she responded on behalf of the group. And what she said was, you know, we're working on the same issues. We're working in North America on the same issues that you're experiencing here, but we understand you're on the front lines. You're on the front lines. You're working for all of us, but you're on the front lines. And so in that moment, I experienced solidarity. It was a gift, that solidarity gift. And so that's really what, to me, that one experience is a kind of a metaphor of what it is that we're trying to do as we go to Guatemala or El Salvador or Honduras or whatever, and just stand with people there and say, we're on your side. Our God is on your side. We have the same God, and we're fighting the same forces around the world. We have our part, you have your part, and so that's a little bit about what our work is.
Dear. That's tough to follow. It's tough to follow all the biographies we've heard and things that other people have done right here in the room and in the past history of the Hawkinson Fund. When we were asked to be recipients of this by way of Steve, John and I both said, oh dear, why us? And then we read the list of some of the people who have received it, and we were really so pleased that we could follow in those footsteps in a way. I don't know where to begin. When you talk about the global, I guess I'll start there. John and I have been involved with Witness for Peace for the past 25 years. It's now semi-closing its doors, but its work continues because there have been so many people who have worked there as really like Peace Corps workers in a way, you know, on a stipend. And they led wonderful reception for the delegations that we formed here in the U.S. to take U.S. people to Latin America to really hear from them like you spoke. That was my eye-opener in the early 2000s, hearing, and what was happening there was very touching, and it was very brave for them to be doing it. But they felt, and they often said, we are so grateful that you're here to listen to us, because they feel invisible. They feel like they don't matter. And for these US people to come and really listen with empathy in their hearts was very encouraging for them to even do their work. So I thought, just by standing there was something that was important. But for me, it was an eye-opener to what they were struggling with, and we were always looking through the lens of, we are US citizens, what do we have to do with that? And they were very clear in telling what we do have to do with it. And it made me realize what was happening to them by our US capitalism in Latin America. They are doing it to us here as well. We just don't see it as easily. They see it, and it helped me see it. So I had always been a bit of an activist here in the US until the 2000 year, with anti-racism work being the core of many of the things I was doing in the various places that we lived. But then I could see the US racism, which is at the very core of our culture. US racism goes all over the world, and our capitalistic system is imposing that all over the world. You realize how systemic it is. And I guess the other realization is in working with people of color, both in my personal life and various places we lived and in Latin America, that the way to really get at systemic racism and exploitation and oppression is for me as a white privileged heritage person, I need to work on the white privileged heritage people because we are the ones who have the foot on their necks. That's what comes to mind. What about you, John? Or Diane?
Sure. Life is a journey. And it's not, I'm also a sailor. And I say sailing isn't about the destination, it's about the journey. You know, going with the wind, facing the challenges that are out there. What I want to say is I think there have been two primary areas that have taken a large part of my life. One was, as you can see, I'm part of Veterans for Peace. I'm a Marine Corps veteran of the early 1960s. That was a very powerful experience. During my 3 years of active duty, because of the experiences that I had and what I learned about, what I learned was that this was the very beginnings of the Vietnam War. We weren't committed with massive troops at that point. That happened in 1965. But what I learned was we were being lied to. We were being lied to by the powers that be, the media and the government. And those of us who were caught up in the military thinking we were serving our country and doing something good for peace and freedom, we were pawns in the game. So that really, for me, fueled activism and anti-war, anti-militarism, working for nonviolence and nonviolent solutions. And that's taken place in many ways. The second area that Lynn touched on has to do with racism. And our first exposure with overt, blatant Jim Crow racism happened in the first year of our marriage in 1964, where I was stationed in North Carolina. And I won't go into the details, suffice it to say, some really bad behavior by white people when we tried to reach out to black people and join hands together. And that has been a continuing sense of involvement, as Lynn said, anti-racism work over the years. But I would also say that one scriptural passage that's particularly important to me, very short, very simple. What does the Lord God require? But to do justice, to love with compassion, and to walk humbly with our God. So it doesn't matter what we do, it's that we do it, and do it where we are, and with whatever we can do to help. And it does take a village to create that change. So it's a journey.
Hi, I'm Diane Haynes, and I'm really glad to be here with all of you because obviously from our retreat, we're talking about who are our people and where do we feel support. We're each other's people. We're people who really care about justice, and we really care about what happens not only in our neighborhood but around the world. And so, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here and for caring about this. And Steve, I don't know what you were thinking, but thank you for the honor of suggesting our names. We have felt called to do the work that we're doing, so it doesn't feel like drudgery or we have to do it, boy, what God requires, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's funny because that's my favorite verse too, Micah 6:8. And I've pondered required all week long. What does God require? Because I usually think of that as sounding like it's a demand. But the more I thought about it, I thought, no, think about what we require of our children. We require things so that they're kept safe, so that we're raising them correctly. We have rules of the road. We require people do things to keep people safe. God requires that we do this work because we're kin and we need to care about each other. And so I come at this with knowing that there's a whole host of people that are doing this with me and that God calls us to do it, and I find it brings me joy. So it's not something that I feel like, oh, brother, I gotta do another border trip. I love doing border trips. And some of you have been on some of the border trips that I've done, and I'm grateful that you've come with us. It's meaningful to me to go every time and see what's happening this time at the border. So I will mostly talk about the border because our work in going to Guatemala really impacted what I finally realized God was calling me to do. You know, when I'm learning that our government is doing all this nefarious things in countries all over the world. It happened to be Guatemala for me because that's where I was. But learning that we were actually giving money for economic improvements in Guatemala, but it really was going to train people at the School of the Americas to go back and fight the people in Guatemala, the indigenous people. And when I learned that, my life was changed, and that was in 1990. And my life was changed because I knew that now God wants me to go back and tell these stories and do something about it. And as immigrants began coming more and more to the United States, that's where I focused my energy. And I had a whole host of people around me at Creekside who also were enthused about trying to do something about what we're doing with our immigration policies and how we're treating immigrants. So I just want to say, I love this work. I don't feel like it's hard work, but I feel like it's a joy that God has given me to care about this and to do it with a bunch of people who care and to meet people at the border and feel so much kinship with those people coming across from Mexico, from Guatemala, from Nigeria, from many places, to realize the kinship between us. That's joy. So thank you for just doing this work with us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rosalind Namiao. I am happy to be here. I'm going to keep it short because public speaking is, and I'm neurodivergent. So I created a nonprofit called the Leading with Love Foundation. When I was 18, I faced housing insecurity, and I also graduated undergrad debt-free from Augsburg. So really trying to bridge that gap specifically for students who are often left out of scholarship criteria, so DACA students, international students, non-alien resident. No one should be left out of scholarships or, finding ways to get out of poverty, so that's very important. I also have a tech startup that the University of Minnesota Business Law School is helping us with documentation right now. The goal is to, again, bridge the gap between innovation and dignity preservation when it comes to those who are unhoused and are currently on the street. The goal is to create green jobs and get them transitioned, and to also decrease the burdens of social service providers who are directly working with populations that are impacted by that. And so just in general, I pray that everyone in this room and beyond can get the love thing right. So thank you.
Oh, I guess it was on. So hello, everyone. My name is Chris Robertson. I am a PhD candidate at the University of Minnesota in sociology. And so for me, I am a researcher. As a PhD student, we're trained to research and to value research and writing and thinking and analyzing and all of the things. And as a sociologist, thinking structurally and thinking about, what does structure mean when we say structural racism? And so I'm I come to this work, I come to thinking about peace and justice through the lens of research, thinking about how, how research has been used in the past to oppress, to justify harm, to contribute to institutional practices that are oppressive, that are discriminatory, and thinking about how I, as a Black man, can be mindful of those harmful and oppressive practices, and how I can embody a different way of research by listening to the communities that are historically oppressed by these institutions, and also being attuned to that whenever I'm conducting my analyses or what have you. And so for me, I guess an experience that was salient for me in terms of kind of being affirmed in this work following 2020 when George Floyd was murdered. For those of us who were in the Twin Cities area, there was a lot of energy around like reimagining public safety, reimagining policing and what have you. And so it was out of that energy, I was a part of a project that sought to use research towards reforming and reevaluating our police licensing board, the POST board. And so with that particular project, I co-authored a report that identified different requirements that we would have for anybody who would like to be licensed as a police officer in the state of Minnesota. And so thankfully, it actually, the politicians were in agreement with the changes. We actually were able to revise the code and have it to where, and this is a very low bar, but where folks who are members or who are affiliated with a white supremacist organization are prohibited from being a police officer in the state. Wow. Low bar. I'm like, y'all, you got to start somewhere, but it's kind of like, this. It's a bar, yes. This is a win. It's like, it's a very commonsensical, or very. I feel like we all kind of could, like we all are in agreement about that. But to have that in law is a major win. And so that particular experience, being a part of the report writing and the researching all the various post-bar boards and licensures across states, was an experience that showed me that there is a way to use this research training towards establishing accountability and safeguards and ways to reduce potential harm or folks who would like to be in these positions where they could cause a lot of harm. And so it's something that, as someone who aspires to be a professor, I plan to take with me in terms of working with communities to use research to address problems that are facing them. And so I'm grateful for this award. Thank you all for being here, and I'm honored to be a Hawkinson Fellow.
Thanks, everybody. I'd like to ask just the folks that participated in the retreat, and this would give John and Lynn a chance to hear a bit about what happened at the retreat, to share some reflections on your experience of being part of this cohort, this intergenerational conversation, and connecting with people in the struggle for social justice around these important issues. Anyone like to share reflections? Learnings?
I feel like I'm being, voluntold.
You can hold that way too.
Yeah, so it's going that way. No, I'd say like the retreat was powerful. It was refreshing is the word that comes to mind when I think about it. It was so great to just get to know fellow awardees as well as I think or fellow honorees. It was great to get to know y'all and get to know just the folks who are connected to this to the Hawkinson Fund, to this program. I say that because, you know, again, researcher, I study policing and racism and whatnot. And so I, again, as a researcher, am very much so trained to silo myself in terms of like thinking about this one particular thing. So if you guys ask me about policing, I can talk to you all day. But if we're in terms of talking to me about immigration or housing instability, education access, I'm not as versed in having a long conversation about those things. But the powerful thing about being here with my fellows was being able to learn from them and also realize that we all are fighting for justice in various arenas, and being able to commune with them and be like, hey, we all are pushing for a better world. And it's so amazing to think about just, at times, again, thinking about structural and systemic problems. The problems seem so big and there's just so much work. And it's just refreshing to know and to know that there are other people who are willing, who are engaging in that work, and who are there, who get the odds and get what we're going against in a sense. And so I leave that, leaving this experience very refreshed, very hopeful, which is a weird word to have in our current time, but I leave it very hopeful knowing that, having folks like this, that we will survive, we will overcome this particular period, as folks in the past who've handed the baton to us have done. And so I look forward to, the world that we will, the just world that we will one day build.
It was a very great experience. I'm just hopeful, like Chris was saying, for the future, and have faith that everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to, and being surrounded by people who share the same vision and also challenge you to think of other ways to give back to community, like Reverend Hawkinson, was very fruitful. So I'm very humbled and appreciative of the experience.
Yeah. It was good to be together. I know that one of the things they were testing out during this event, since it's a new thing they're doing, having a retreat, was to see how things work between the generations. We were one generation, they were another. Our leader was kind of in the middle. And our leaders. Nina, I want to thank you for helping us ponder things together that were really difficult things because of the way life is right now. And you and I talked, and our group, so much about how to move forward in love as we confront parties that are moving forward in hate. And what a challenge that is. And to struggle with those questions together was really helpful, and made me realize that it's important to struggle with that, not to just say, I don't like those people, I don't think they're movable, I'm moving on. But to think about, what does love call us to do in those situations? That will be something that will stick with me. And being able to just meet you two and learn the kinds of work you're doing gave me a tremendous amount of hope that people will continue the work. And it brings me back to Micah 6:8, which you were talking about, and which Nancy, our choir director, who's here, took that verse and wrote a choral piece called Do Not Be Daunted. She took what the rabbis had to say about that verse of what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God, and said, don't be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief, which, do you find it can be daunting? Yeah, me too. And to be told, don't be daunted, because you're not expected to do all the work. You don't have to finish it. You just have to do what you're called to do. And that is very reassuring. And knowing that you're going into looking at policing, you're looking at housing, I'm looking at immigration, you guys are looking at global stuff. We've each got our piece of the pie, and so do you. We're in it together.
We were together from, it was 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon until 2:30 this afternoon. I think a couple things came out of that for me. I mean, one of them is I think we're friends forever, just based on that 24 hours. The other thing is just the hope. I mean, people, I don't even know, I'm not going to do the arithmetic about how much younger you are than we are, but to see that dedication in young people and seeing that there's just incredible amount of hope. And I think, but most of all, and I think this applies to all of us, I know this truth, but I don't always experience it. We're not alone. We're in this together, and that was lived for 23 whatever hours, and I'm not going to forget that. So I'm very appreciative to the Hawkinson Fund, and it was quite the 23 hours. I won't forget it, and. We left all more. It was also Nina was the leader of this process. She's right there, sitting there, and very, very skilled in process and popular education. And it was a refreshing time. I've been to these seminars. I leave and I go, I can't even move because I'm so exhausted. But we actually it was a refreshing period of dealing with difficult subjects and very personal things. And there was a tear or two along the way, and but we left. At least I left feeling that we're not alone. We're in this together, and with all of you as well. So thank you.
Thank you all.
You guys can stay here, return to your seats. We're almost done. Yeah, thank you so much for this rich conversation. Yeah, another round of applause for all of our awardees. So we are nearing the close of our lovely evening together. Thank you everyone for sticking it out. Yeah, so just a couple of announcements. There is lots of extra food. So if you are still hungry, please eat. You can even bring some home with you, stick a little falafel in your pocket. Secondly, please consider donating to support the Hawkinson Fund for Peace and Justice. This work is not possible without your support. Each dollar you donate makes a real difference in the world, especially right now. And if you're wondering how to donate, you can do so in a couple different ways. So on the back of your program, there is a QR code. So you can scan that to donate online. You can also write a check out to United with Hawkinson Fund in the memo line. And you can place checks in the basket, which is out kind of in the area there. And if you get home and you're like, oh man, I wanted to donate more money, you can also write a check and mail it in. That's okay too. Yeah, and the address is on the back of the program as well. Silent auction, with the silent auction, bidding, let's say, we were gonna say 9, but it is nearly 9. So let's say 9:15. So we'll close the bidding at 9:15. And you don't have to be present if you need to get home. I will follow up with you. And you can we would love to get your email contact information. So there's a sign-up sheet kind of as you're coming into the chapel right there. Yeah, so with that, thank you, thank you.